Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you are in time for the first discussion for the day. My name is Jenwin Boy, and this is all about women who are at the forefront to bring change in the society in whatever capacity that they are able to do so, be it small, be it big, whatever impact you are able to do so. As a woman, we are here to celebrate you and to let you know that yes, you are doing something right and your work is being felt. Now, remember, you can be part of these conversations that we get to bring to you every other day from Monday through to Thursday. Our Twitter handle is at KBC Television. Our official station handle, that is at KBC Television. Our official hashtag is hashtag Good Morning Kenya. My handle is Jenwin Boy, and my colleagues as well at Raymanyara, at Ramaguko, and at Dorina Range are their social handles across all social media platforms. And of course, you can get in touch via our SMS line, that is 20154 on the top left of your screen. And as always, a name and location would be absolutely appreciated. So today with us in our Women at the Forefront segment, we have one fantastic young lady who is doing amazing things, just going all out, being selfless, and just trying to do good to leave the world a better place. We have Essy Soni with us in studio. She is a PhD candidate just studying global inclusion and social development at the University of Massachusetts in Boston. She's a researcher on a social and human and a social and human development advocate. Karibu sana, Soni.
Oh, Santi, thank you very much.
We're glad to have you.
It's a pleasure.
Are you on Twitter? Yes, you are. On social media? Give us the social media handles.
So at Essy Soni, that's on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a group called Jiperaha because I'm big on self-empowerment and self-happiness. I also have on Facebook Tujadiliane Live na Essy Soni, which I kind of open it up to discuss issues that have been put as a taboo in our communities, but are really impacting us socially. So I have that Tujadiliane Live where I tell people, let's put down our fear, to discuss, break it down, break the barriers, and let's have these tough, difficult, but important discussions.
That we ought to have had a long time ago, but we still struggle with, just laying ourselves bare.
Yes.
With all our flaws.
Yes.
But before we get to that, before we even get to, the many issues that you really tackle on, issues to do with empowerment, inclusion, self-happiness, self-actualization, we'll be getting to all that in not long. But let's just get to understand even your journey. Tell us a bit about yourself and, when did all this even start?
So, I was born in Kirinyaga. I'm from Mwea. We plant a lot of rice from a woman who's called Gladys Wanjiku. She has struggled to raise us as children. She has given her all to make sure that we're okay and financing my education under very tough situations. But I struggled with the fact that she gave up her happiness for the children. I've seen her struggle a lot. And I've seen women, my aunties, struggle a lot. So it was important for me from a very young age to challenge myself, and also I try to see if I can just do a little bit of an impact to really help, especially the girl child. I'm very selfish and passionate about the girl child. And so it's from the women who brought me up, from my mom.
From what you saw growing up.
From what I saw growing up. And I saw that as women, we really need to also focus on ourselves. And then through that journey, I got to meet a lot of people who have children with disabilities, and women in the forefront, women empowerment, but also I realized that children with disabilities are a forgotten population. And I started thinking more about it, and that's how I got here.
And you're actually working on a piece about, the lived realities of children with disabilities and their families.
Yes.
You'll be telling us a bit about that in not long, but before we even get to that, so you, from what you saw growing up to what you came alive to when you are now grown and living out there, what was it really that, at what point were you like, you know what, I need to do something. In as much as I have been seeing this, I have been feeling it, I need to do something. What was the situation that was happening then?
I think, so I was, my family's in business. And the first time I went to America actually was to study business and finance management. And I started working at a bank, but I was never satisfied. Fast forward, I have a child. I'm a single mother to a beautiful boy. But I've struggled a lot. It's been a challenging a journey that almost broke me, that actually made me realize that you cannot look outside for happiness. You have to look
It
inside.
needs to start within.
Yes, you have to start within. So I think it's the struggles of the journey, but also from when I was young. I remember I was looking through my things and I saw a book I'd started writing, say the African girl child and the struggles. So I don't know when it clicked, but I think it's when I got a child and realized that it's not about me, it's about trying to make an impact. And when I try to make an impact, when I talk and interact with people, I feel more alive, but I also feel like, I think in our societies, before growing up when we were young, we always interacted, there was that community, but as we grew up with technology, we starting have to live separate lives, very secluded lives. But the more we discuss, the more we open up, we realize that there's a core thing that holds us all together. And I think that's what really brought me to this point, is really the struggles of my journey, which have been tough, but just connecting to God, but also reaching out to people who are actually going through tougher situations than you, brought me to where I am. And I'm still too far. I'm hoping the journey is going to keep opening up. But yeah, I think it's the struggles of the journey, and still the roots of being brought up in that small area called Mwea, and seeing the women struggle so much to bring the youth up. And but also seeing the youth that are struggling with alcoholism, depression. We have a lot of that in Boston, and people don't talk about it. So that's the struggles that I have to balance between being open, challenging, but also focusing on myself. So it's a struggle. I'm not there yet, but hoping that
you'll get there.
I'll get there.
Getting to that point where we can all have those honest conversations with
honest
ourselves.
Conversation.
With ourselves. That we choose to always say, that's not, it's not in the African culture.
No.
It's not here. And we always have an excuse for not doing what scares us. We always have a reason as to why. And it's, most cases, it's a very good reason. But we always choose to just turn a blind eye and say, not today. Now, let's quickly go to the whole issue. You are heavy on a few issues, but let's start with empowerment. And that is especially for the girl child. You know, as you were saying, watching your mother growing up, she sacrificed her happiness for the sake of you guys, you and your siblings. Now, when it comes to empowerment, what do you think we're not doing right, especially for our young ladies that we're trying to bring up, the next generation that we're trying to bring up? What is it that we are not really doing right, and what are we actually doing right?
I think let's start with what we're doing right, because I think with the women in Kenya, I bow to them. They go out of their way to really give everything they have for their families, everything they have for their families. On the other side, some of them, and I don't want to put an umbrella to all of them, but some of them forget also their self-happiness is important in raising that families. So as a young girl, as I was a young girl, seeing my mom give everything, there's empowerment there, but I also wished for her to also take it a little bit, a notch down, and also focus on her happiness. So empowerment for me, especially, I feel is the women in our Kenyan culture, our Kenyan upbringing, also focusing on themselves, loving themselves, giving themselves a break. And as young girls, when we see our moms, our aunties, actually taking some time to enjoy life, to travel around and appreciate this beautiful country that we have, I think helps us realize that we can aim even higher than just a woman going out of her way, every day struggling to raise these children and forgetting themselves. Then as young girls, we start thinking that's the life for us. Or we almost also sometimes give up and just accept life. This is where I can be, instead of just dreaming so big. I think we're not taught how to dream big from when we were very young. I don't know about other people, but in my household, we never talked about love. What is love? What is loving yourself? We're taught to love other people. My mom is big on church, so we went and gave and gave and gave, but we forget sometimes to give ourselves back.
And that is where, you know, we miss it.
That's where I think we miss it.
Now, when it comes to the role of even our schools in this modern day, you know, when you talk about our parents, it's only when we are grown that we realize that they were not happy. They were sacrificing all along, but you don't realize it when you're a child. When you're grown up, that's when you realize it. Now, what role even can our schools play when it comes to empowering our children? Because, you know, children spend so much time at school, and at home. Those are the
Yes.
two places where they get, you know, to be molded.
Yes.
When it comes to our schools, what
Yeah.
role do you feel they can play in terms of empowering our children and letting them know that, you know, you can do anything that you set your mind to?
I think really it's important to let our children, especially our African black children, I'm black, to realize how beautiful and how important they are and how special they are. And we're all created in the same image of God. And from very young, knowing that being different is not wrong. Talking of children and empowerment, thinking about children with disabilities, just when they're born, we think they're different. And so when a child is brought up being separated from the community, being kept and hidden from the community, there's no empowerment there. And also, if I have a sibling who has disabilities, who is segregated from the community, I don't even think they're important. So I think it's really just being open to our differences, but also reminding our children that they're created in God's image and they're really have this, so they can have that self-confidence and self-love instead of always looking out there thinking other people are better than them, and knowing that if you want to succeed in life, it's in you and the power is in you, you just need to call it out.
So
I think from schools, from when they're very young.
To just have it ingrained in their minds
Yes,
from a very young age.
From a very young age. I remember right now, I struggle, I'm not perfect, I'm not a perfect parent, but every day sometimes, when I remember, sometimes life can rush you, but I remember telling my son to always say, I am a child of God. From when he's very young, you know, I belong, I'm going to make it, I'm confident, I'm strong, I'm brave. Because those affirmations are very important, because I struggled, before I got to self-love, we never taught self-love and accepting how you are and your God's perfect creation. So it's that just reminding yourself. But I think we have to start teaching them when they're very young. As we're teaching them ABCDs, let's also teach them that I'm a child of God, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm confident.
And they are loved.
And they are loved.
Yes.
Did you ever say I love you from
You know, looking at when you try to even think when you were a kid, you don't even remember saying some words. You know, being shown love is what you are bought, and
That's
that
what
is
you
love.
want. You're being paid for education, that is love.
You have food on the table, that is love.
That
Yes,
is love.
it is a form of love, but are we actually telling our children, I love you?
Yes.
Without having, you know, to give them something and saying, take this because I love you. No, just telling them I love you just because I love you.
That's it.
And I think that is an African unspoken language that we tend to not even communicate our feelings as much. Now, let's quickly talk about the whole aspect of inclusion, and especially the whole issue of equality, bearing in mind children with disabilities.
Oh, it's a tough topic. I've gone to a few places that have a lot of poverty. And it's challenging, and I have to say this, it's a tough conversation, but visiting those places, I'm realizing that we can have people living in a colony in a nation. There are people who are living in sheer poverty, in sheer pain. I have never seen anything like that. It's changed me as a person, thinking that I live in such a world of ignoring people who are going through so much. You go in a home of one room that has 8 kids, a father and a mom, but they live in one room. That's a bedroom, kitchen, that one room. And they have 3 kids with disabilities who don't have any adaptive equipment, who, if they need to take to the dispensary, they have to carry on their backs, and they have to walk on rough terrains. So there are people who are living, and I hate to say it, in a colony. They're not living in this nation we call Kenya. Their lives are sheer hopelessness, but they're loving people. That's the challenge I got. You find them smiling. The kids are coming to you for hugs. So they are happy, right? But they struggle so much.
They're secluded from
They're secluded.
society.
They are a forgotten population. So when you go there and you start talking to them, actually sometimes it's not even anything you're giving to them. It's just seeing them. They want somebody to see them, to hear them, to realize that I am here. I am a human being, and I deserve to be part of the community. Yeah.
But why do we still shy away from just, you know, especially when we have conversations about persons with disabilities? In most societies, you find that, especially in the rural settings, it's sad to say this, but, you know, in most such settings, that is where, you know, they find you'd rather hide the child due to, you know, it being a taboo in the society. Why do you think we still have that sort of retrogressive mentality?
I think, again, it's, first of all, I don't know what generation of technology, of acceptance, but we still have people who believe that disabilities is actually a taboo, a curse. Their parents themselves who live in denial. I've talked to a few parents who at first wondered, why me, right? And so sometimes they hide, like for example, if some of the children with disabilities, even playing with the people in the neighborhood, they're secluded. People, even neighbors, might fear to interact with the parents. So I think there's a fear of acceptance, and so they prefer to hide it and live in denial that it's not happening.
So it's the fear of acceptance by the society.
I think it's the fear of acceptance. I also think that we also need to start talking about these discussions. What is disabilities? Is it a natural occurrence? Is it something that's a curse? Is it because somebody did something wrong? Is it a generational curse? When we start having those conversations, I think we'll start opening up. And also if the government starts maybe offering some adaptive equipment, some services, people might start accepting the fact that we are all different but the same. Yeah.
Differences shouldn't, divide us.
They should not.
All right. Now, let's quickly go, that also brings to the whole issue of self-happiness, especially, just what you're saying, people are living in conditions that you would think that are not as desirable, but yet they're so happy. And the whole issue of self-happiness, and especially looking at our youth in this day and time, our youth are going through so much. They're stuck between this generation of, this new technology and the old generation where there wasn't technology, everything is manual. So they're still struggling to find their footing in that madness and finding self-happiness and just knowing who they are. And that's why, we're hearing so many cases of depression, suicide all over the place. When it comes to self-happiness, where do you think we stand?
We are far away.
Yeah.
I think we are taught from when we were very young to sacrifice and give. It's about giving. It's about serving. But we forget that it's about our self-happiness, but we don't know how to be self-sufficient, or we look to others to make us happy. So if somebody does something that doesn't make you happy, it kind of makes you hate yourself, or you go through a tough situation, because everybody goes through a tough situations. It kind of impacts your happiness. So, and this person allowed me to actually share. There's a young man in Boston who we've done to Jadiliana Live with. He's called Anto. Has gone through a tough life of depression, of alcoholism, and homelessness in America. It's tough. People are going through that a lot. But it got back to him realizing, I don't love myself. I'm not happy. And you have to start from zero. And that's why I came up with the Jiperaha movement, where we talk about self-happiness. If the youth are taught from when they're very young to accept themselves the way they are, because with technology comes with advertisements, with seeing movies, social pressure, Instagram and Facebook. You want to be somebody else, but you're really not. And so you try to change yourself, or you actually end up not liking who God created you to be, and you try to be somebody else, but at the core, you're not happy. At the core, you're not happy. So really, I think with the youth right now, it's a struggle. You have parents who maybe are old generational, and then you have this technology, and you have to balance both. So it's tough. I really don't know the real answer to that, but I think we need to have that open conversations. Tunataka kujadiliana. Let's talk about it. Let the youth open up and let us know what they're going through. Because unless they open up, you're going to give advices from our experience, from our perspective, but we don't understand their world, which is a bit complicated.
And that is the biggest challenge that even our parents are having with this new, with the young people these days, just not understanding them. All right.
Yes.
And that also brings into play this whole aspect of childhood trauma. So many people go through life with baggage from childhood, from their teen life, and much later in life, you're wondering what is happening, but it's rooted deeply back in the past. When it comes to dealing with childhood trauma, what do you think we need to do, especially with our parents just trying to help the younger generation walk through that and actually deal with that trauma in itself, to just get to a place where you're actually happy with who you are?
I think our parents give a lot for us, they sacrifice a lot, but they also work a lot. So sometimes as children, we go through some very tough traumas, challenging situations, but we don't know who to open up to. So we live in denial. We hide it, but in the back of our minds, we're still remembering what we went through. So for me, I would say the parents need to relax a bit, open. I think we need to have an open society where if something happens to me, especially these taboo things, I know, and it's a tough situation, but I know people who've been abused when they were young. I know they're a tough situation, but if you don't talk about it and we take care of it when it happens, then you carry it all through the years and you take it over generation to generation. So it becomes a cycle. So I really think, and I'm also big on counseling. I think in our culture, when people talk about counseling, going to see a psychiatrist or a counselor,
we don't do that.
I'm not crazy.
We don't do that.
I'm not crazy. Are you calling me mad?
Yeah.
No, but I'm really, really big. I think parents should sign up their kids for counseling, who they can be open, they can open up to a stranger who has actually been taught to actually deal with these trauma things. I always tell people, if you have a stomachache or a headache, you're not going to just ignore it, right? You're going to see a specialist of the headache, of the heads, scanning, whatever, the belly. The mental health is very important. There's somebody who's gone to school to study mental health. It does not mean that you're crazy or you're mad, but there's a specialist who can help you deal with whatever you're going through. So I'm very big on counseling. I have gone through counseling. So I always tell parents, open up. I hope NHF covers some counseling services. I think it does. I don't know. But if you're able to, open it up, let the kids go see a counselor. I struggle a little bit with going to see these religious leaders, which is good. And I think if you don't have access to counseling, it's good to see a religious leader. But sometimes we go through so much that you're afraid to tell somebody you respect, somebody who is a leader, because you're afraid of being judged. And in our culture, there's a lot of judging and blaming the victim who has gone through some tough times. So I really think from when we are young, let's open up, let's encourage young kids. And if the parent is not there, introduce them to an auntie who's free. But it's important that as children, we start sharing what we are going through. And if not, even as we are older, we need to see counselors, because I've gone through things, and I'm sure you have.
Everybody has baggage.
Baggage. But it's important to see somebody who can help us understand the baggage and also have a way to let go and let be.
All right. Now, let's quickly just talk about, self-actualization, which I think is one of the things that most people struggle with. Our parents, our youth, especially with the young people these days. We are called a microwave generation.
Yes.
We want things overnight. And, the whole aspect of self-actualization actually boils down from the previous generation, wanting to achieve at a certain time in life, and we are still struggling with that. And that brings in the whole aspect of expectations. When it comes to dealing with expectations, what would you advise people when it comes to dealing with expectations and that self-actualization drive that you may be having?
I think again it boils down to acceptance, because we try so much to meet expectations, societal expectations, parental expectations, but also with social media. I want to look like her, or it's a boy, I want to look like him, I want to drive this car. Accepting who you are and where you are at the moment, but also starting to understand yourself. This is who I am. This is, I think, what I'm good at. When you start realizing what you're good at and actually focus on that part and try to keep improving that part, it's really, I always say, it's you start crawling before you run that marathon, right? So if you know what you're good at, focus on that, nurture that dream. Also surround yourself with people who love you for who you are, but also who are really pushing you to be a better self. I think that can lead us to that journey of self-actualization.
Without putting too much expectations on ourselves that are not realistic enough with the space and time that you are in your life.
Yes.
And that is, I think, one struggle that even our parents still struggle with. Yeah. But, we acknowledge our parents have done such a fantastic job in getting to where they are in life. Yes. Now, let's just quickly look at, the project that you're working on about the realities of, the lived realities of children with disabilities and their families. Yes. Where do you stand as of now when it comes to this project?
So right now, still talking to a few parents, but I'm finding that there's more. You know, when you're out there, you have all these made-believe perceptions of what you'll find. I already thought I'm going to go do a quick interview and I'm done. You go to look at disabilities, you find there's poverty, you find there's trauma, there's a lot of things that are intersected. So sometimes I have to take a step back and just kind of analyze, but also question myself on when they see you, when you go there and they see you, they think you're bringing help, and I'm not. It's really, I'm a student, it's really a dissertation research. I'm not even supposed to give any compensation for these interviews. So I explained that to them. But I struggle because they look at you and they see hope, and you're not bringing them hope. So I'm still doing the interviews, and I'm still taking a day at a time, but also still trying to explain to them, I am just here to understand your lives. But what I do is I really go and stay with them the whole day.
Yeah.
I understand how they wake up in the morning, how they cook. We take a walk with them to school and back, because really I'm actually looking at access to education for young children, because I believe that if we can get the children at the young foundation and we break their mentality and we empower them from a very young age, we can actually start breaking those poverty cycle. But if we let the children grow in the same situation, we'll never break it. So I'm really focused on the children. And so we've been going to schools together. I've been staying with them at the schools where they go to schools and just understanding. So for now, it's not even solving, it's just understanding their real lived realities for those families.
Now, even before you even get to the solution bit, when we get there, right now, you know, we have a government that is able to do something. And from where you stand, from what you have seen, what do you think, or what would you suggest the government or anyone who is in a position to assist, they can be able to just come on board and help in whatever ways that you feel that they're able to do so?
You know, almost all of them have a card called, I think you register as a person with disabilities. So they have that card. And allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly because this is from their perspective, as communicated to me, they're not accessing services. I've visited families who have children with albinism, and they need sunscreen. And they're told to go get the sunscreen at the society, which they give for free. But these parents have 5, 6 children. They have to stay with them the whole day. So they have to find a way to get somewhere to either look at the children. And the children are at risk. That's something else I did not know, that these children are at risk of being stolen still. So they have to stay, they have to have a grown-up looking after them, and they cannot even roam around the community. So they're not even allowed to be children, because children are allowed to play with other children. But anyway, so they're given free sunscreen, but they have to go get it. So there's the border money, which they don't have. So I would hope the government would offer these services. These people are registered, you know where they are. Get a van once a month, go drop the sunscreens to them. I think the government is, I think they're doing a good job, but I think it can be improved. There's no family I've visited so far that has an HIF card, and they have kids that have children that need medical care. When I asked about it, they said that they are forced to pay the co-payment, which they don't have, which they cannot afford. So I'd hope the government would subsidize the co-payment for these parents with children with disabilities, but from poor neighborhood, and give them a medical insurance for free. But the best, because I'm looking at education, is I've not found a lot of schools that have adaptive equipment to reach the children where they are. I visited one school which is private, really trying to do a great job, but again, they lack the equipment. These parents have to bring their children to school, which is another hassle because the children have disabilities, they don't have cars, the roads are just not smooth to even try to sugarcoat it. It's a tough neighborhood. But I think the government and the NGOs, because there are a lot of NGOs. And
all the relevant authorities.
Should really try to maybe reach out to the people on the ground, the community leaders, because until you go on the ground, you don't realize what is going on. Yes.
Now, as we bring the conversation to a close, even to our viewers out there, to anybody out there, what would you advise them when it comes to just, first of all, accepting everyone as they are. No one is a mistake. When it comes to our levels of acceptance, our levels of our awareness, and of course when it comes to just lending a hand when you're able to do so. I
say be kind.
Be kind.
Smile when you can. Realize that people are going through tough situations. So if you're able to help, reach out and help. I found this communities are very open to visitors. I say walk around. If you see a parent with a child with disabilities, talk to them, encourage them. Yeah, we sometimes forget to encourage one another, to love one another. But again, I think let's advocate for human and self-development. Let's agree that all children are created equal. Our differences are what makes us unique. And I think it's the government and the environment to adapt to reach to the child where they are. It's not the child that has disabilities. I believe it's the environment that's disabled. So we need to fix the environment to meet the child where they are. And I think hopefully we'll be where we need to be, all of us, and we're going to be self-empowered, self-happy, and tajiparaha.
All right, and on that jiparaha, no, just look at the camera right then, just tell people it's never that serious. Just try and be happy. Like, you are the biggest, you are your own limitations.
Yes.
You know, just speak to the public out there.
You know, I say, love yourself. This is what you are. Your skin, who you are is who God created you to be. Don't try to be different. When you accept yourself, ujiperaha, ujipende, things will start working for you. So be kind, smile, remember to kujiparaha, and let's meet at Tujadiliane Live with Essy Soni on Facebook. If you have Facebook, also join the Jiparaha group, and let's discuss about these things, social things that can also help us develop socially and what do you call it? Socially and human development. Human development. Jiparaha, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm very humbled.
Thank you for being with us this morning, just trying to make us happy, man. We need more of you.
We need to. We need to laugh more.
We need to laugh more. We need to smile more. We need to be happier.
We do.
Because most of the time, you, as humans, you're inclined to look at what is not working out in your life, as opposed to what really works out. So sometimes just take a step back, look at what is working out, look at the bright side of life. In as much as things are not looking good, look for that glimmer of happiness.
Yes.
Try and focus on that, and you know, eventually, the laws of attraction actually work.
What you just said.
Laws of attraction work. Positivity attracts positivity. Negativity attracts negativity. So choose to be happy and be deliberate about it. We have been speaking with Essy Soni, who is a PhD candidate studying global inclusion and social development. She is also a researcher on social and human development, and she's also an advocate for that. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Very humbled. Thank you very much for having me.
Anytime. Now, Good Morning Kenya does continue. We want to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with another interview. Don't go anywhere. Keep talking to us. SMS line 20154, #Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. See you after the break.